Good afternoon, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okun, and thank you everybody who have been helping me. Thank you everyone who have been supporting this project and for subscribing, for leaving comment below, and for sharing with family and friends. And we have been talking about the cost of living. The cost of living, as you may well know, is a global crisis. Cost of living, we'll be talking about the cost of living today in terms of Uganda. If you're from Uganda, you're welcome to my channel. Thank you for your support. And if I look at my analytics, I find that Uganda is one of my main supporters recently. There has been changes. The United Kingdom, where I live, is the number one. Now that I'm talking about Uganda, if you happen to look at the video, then leave a comment below and keep in contact with me. And going forward, we'll be talking a lot more about Uganda, but I will be talking about Uganda generally, using information as I find them. Wherever I find them, we'll look more about today. This is probably going to be the fourth video for you to watch. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and talk to your family and friends to subscribe to this channel. To subscribe to this channel helps us to grow. If the channel grows, then we are going to do more things in this place. We're going to talk about the military of Uganda, the information regarding Uganda People's Defense Forces. The name of the military of Uganda is Uganda People's Defense Force. In Uganda, the Uganda People's Defense Force Services is the military. So they help to protect the country. And if you know anything specific about the military of Uganda, leave a comment below and let me know what you're thinking. Uganda Army, the number of the military personnel in Uganda is estimated at 45,000 soldiers on active duty. The Uganda Army is involved in several peacekeeping and combat missions in the region, with commentators noting that only the United States Armed Forces is deployed in more countries. In other words, Uganda, in its military, is perhaps amongst the strongest in Africa, if not the strongest in terms of operations. Because the Uganda Army is involved in several peacekeeping and combat missions in the region, with commentators noting that only the United States Armed Forces is deployed in more countries. It means it's global. The Ugandan government is global, and in its outlook, in its operation, its mission, including in Somalia and other parts of the world. So, in a sense, if you are patriotic person about Uganda, then you should be proud probably of that. And let me know your thoughts. Different people will think differently in terms of this information. So Uganda has soldiers deployed in the northern and eastern areas of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and in the Central African Republic, Somalia, and South Sudan. We're going to look at corruption. We will talk about the cost of living, and we're looking at the resources, national resources of the country of Uganda. And as we look at the national and also the contemporary resources that in the country, then we know that a country like Uganda, being one of the modern countries of the world, should be in a position to deal with the cost of living crisis. And this is what I've said with other countries, with other situations. I have argued elsewhere and in this video that the cost of living is a problem created by poverty in the world, poverty in Uganda, in Africa, poverty everywhere else. And every time you hear the cost of living crisis, you know that this is caused by poverty. And a lot of people who live in denial, and this is human nature, and they are not to be criticized but enlightened as much as possible, that to suppose that you are actually a rich person, you are somebody important, everyone is important in their own right, but the context of your importance needs to be illustrated very clearly. And if it is the case that you work for a living, if it is the case that you actually have to borrow money, live on credit to solve some of your problems, then it is clear in the sense that you are poor, and because you have to work for a living. Multimillionaires and multimillionaires do not necessarily work for a living. And this point is extremely critical in our understanding of the problem of the cost of living crisis. And I have already said severally, I say it again, that every time we want to solve a problem, whatever problem it is, we are actually, you have to take responsibilities to understand the problem, to understand the situation, because we normally in our own self, in our own shells, we are actually minded to look after ourselves. Even the government, the world, the government of Britain, America, modern government are emphasizing. Even President Museveni of Uganda. President Museveni of Uganda is actually telling us that we should take care of ourselves. We should grow cassava, for example, in the north, where I come from. In the rest of Kampala, for example, people grow indigenous crops such as banana. And Mr. Museveni himself said he made his money by selling milk, because he is a Munyankole. Munyankole's main business is actually animal keeping, and the president is leading by example by telling us, how industrious we can be. If you have land, you can grow food and energy, you can produce energy, use your land. If you are in the northern Uganda, in a Choli land or any similar part of Uganda, use your land and grow food. Sell some of it, feed on some of it, produce milk. We can grow cattle and animal, both. Doesn't matter what milk. The president can get rich. If you go online and look for President Museveni, you will find that he is worth over 13 billion US dollars. He's a very rich man. If you go to the internet, you'll find that his wife, the first lady of Uganda, is extremely rich, and that is a good thing. It's a good report on behalf of the first family of Uganda, and also is a pointer to us, the rest of the world, that if we try our best doing the right thing, we can also make it in life. We can make money, we can be rich. But my argument with government, including the government of Uganda at this time, is for the government of Uganda to do everything it can do to remove the people of Uganda from poverty. This is the case across the globe, and this has been the tenor of my argument, and I think I'm right in saying the fundamental task of any government in the world is to move its citizens out of poverty, because we live in a modern economy where we are actually very rich. Our world is extremely wealthy, and it is really shameful if we keep the rest of our citizens poor. That is not necessary, and I say the British government, America, China, Russia, whichever country you are, whatever authority you are, whichever country, Israel is fighting with Gaza, and Palestinians, the Hamas terrorist group. That is bad. That is a show to us, the world, that we are still maturing as people of the world. The war in Ukraine, the war around the world, in Niger, in Africa, the wars everywhere, the conflict even within tribal leaders in Uganda, wherever it is, should show that we need to grow up, we need to be culturally astute, we need to really learn our education culturally, to value humans, to give respect to people. If you respect somebody, you treat them nicely, you build a good relationship, you work together, such as in Uganda now. Ugandans need to work together to build their own economy. Capitalism has matured. It means we need now to learn how to do business. Our learning should lead to our producing goods and services for sales and also for our personal use. And this is what we need to do as a country. And that's the best way to get us out of poverty. And we need the government to really support small and medium businesses in Uganda. We need, if possible, the government to talk to foreign governments to help Uganda to get and talk with our African leaders to speak to the developed world, in Europe, in Europe, like the IMF and the World Bank, to give a bit more help to Uganda, to Africa, so that the continent and the countries of Africa need to get out of poverty, and supporting their citizens to use the land to grow products and goods and services, to sell and also to consume, to use for personal use. The opportunities are there. Sky is the limit if we are willing, if we choose to be culturally educated. And culturally educated is important because that is the only way we begin to respect people. Disrespect has really created another problem, another violence. There will never be peace anywhere in the world with disrespect. And my message is very strict to those in power. The people in power have never been more responsible for societies than now. And their learning should start with practicing, learning about the cultural values, as in respecting people, treating people with care, valuing people. If you do that, you're going to be good to people, and the policy you produce will reflect your character, your mentality. If we produce violence, we're going to destroy the world, we're going to commit suicide and mercy, everybody is going to die. And that's the whole point. And this is the point I've been repeating over and again, and I will continue to repeat this point because it's really essential to this program. Let's go back to talking about Uganda, and let's talk about corruption. Corruption in Uganda. Transparency International has rated Uganda's public sector as one of the most corrupt in the world. And the public sector is so essential in Africa because it's the one now to moderate the extreme version of capitalism which is going global. And I've seen this in this country, and I say this in other situations as well, that the best thing government can do is now to actually strengthen the public sector and use the public sector to produce public services, including providing food, energy, school fees, healthcare, and also to fight corruption. Corruption is a terrible disease in Africa. In Uganda, Uganda is now shown to be one of the most corrupt countries on earth, and the public sector should be big in Africa, not small. Although the conditionality of the IMF and the World Bank is giving pressure to African leaders and governments to spend more on infrastructure and capital investment in Africa, but corruption is actually preventing anything from happening. And so security, dangerous security, national security, food security, and all sorts of security, energy, health, you name them. In 2016, Uganda ranked 151 best out of the 176 and had the score of 25 on a scale of 0 perceived as the most corrupt to 100% is clean. So in terms of percentage, Uganda doesn't fare very well in terms of corruption. It's one of the most corrupt. The current president of Uganda, Mr. President Museveni, has been in power for more than 30 years. It's approaching now 40 years. And you need to really think carefully how what he's going to do about corruption in Uganda. According to the United States Department of State 2012 Human Rights Report on Uganda, the World Bank's most recent worldwide governance indicators reflected corruption was a severe problem and that the country annually loses 768.9 billion shillings and 286 million to corruption. That is a lot of money for a poor country like Uganda. In Africa, Ugandan parliamentarians in 2014 earned 60 times what was earned by most state employees, and they saw a major increase. In other words, the member of parliament are actually overpaying themselves and at the expense of the country, and they are looking for more money. That is greed and corruption. The corruption comes in this. When there's a corruption, there is all sorts of outbursts in the country. This caused widespread criticism and protests, including the smuggling of two piglets into the parliament in June 2014 to highlight corruption amongst members of parliament. Pig means greed. Pig means greed. The protesters who were arrested used the word MPs to highlight their grievances. MPs means the MPs who are greedy. You can never get enough. Specific scandal which had significant international consequences and highlighted the presence of corruption in high-level government offices was the embezzlement of 12.6 million of donors' funds from the office of the Prime Minister in 2012. These funds were earmarked as crucial support for rebuilding northern Uganda ravaged by a 20-year war and Karamoja, Uganda's poorest region. This scandal prompted the EU, the United Kingdom, Germany, Denmark, Ireland, and Norway to suspend aid. Suspending aid in Uganda is wrong, even if they are corrupt. The people who provide aid should provide aid. The policy on aid is the problem, because you see what the aid is done for, and even means putting more resources by foreign nationals, foreign systems to train Ugandans on discipline, on corruption. Then world government should do that, and world government should send this expertise to Africa, to Uganda, to train public servants and private entrepreneurs how to work within compliance, transparency, accountability, and this should be a fundamental condition of getting foreign aid, and to make sure all these aids do not end up in the hands of dictators in Africa to use it to oppress Africans. And this is what is now happening across Africa, not just in Uganda. In Uganda, it's even more prevalent, given the more corrupt, the worse the situation is. And so this needs to change. And so this is actually contributing significantly to the cost of living crisis. The problem with it is actually preventing African government from investing in the public sector. It doesn't matter how corrupt it is, at least it should be functioning. There should be given enough, Africans should be given enough money to finance hospitals, schools, to build housing. It is a problem in the West, in the developed world, which is actually exacerbated in Africa, because Africa is even poorer than the Western world. The world is a poor place in terms of discipline, in terms of corruption, in terms of integrity, because this is also happening in the West, and the public sector is being closed down in the West, and also in the East. this is actually a form of corruption, because there are so many people in the West are actually poor, and people who are living are actually extremely poor. So it's not necessary to close down the public sector, and the public sector needs to be reopened in the developed world, especially in the West, in Europe, in America. These need to happen in order to deal with the cost of living crisis and poverty generally in these regions, particularly in Uganda and Africa. So let's carry on to see this material, the widespread run and petty corruption involving public officials and political patronage system have also seriously affected the investment climate in Uganda. One of the high corruption risk areas is the public procurement, in which non-transparent, under-the-table cash payments are often demanded from procurement officers. What may ultimately compound this problem is the availability of oil. The petroleum bill passed by Parliament in 2012 and touted by the NRM as bringing transparency to the oil sector has failed to please the domestic and international political commentators, economists. In France, Zama, Ugandan energy analyst of the US-based Open Society Foundation, said new law was tantamount to handing over the ATM card machine to Museveni and his regime, and that potentially that is true. And according to Global Witness in 2012, a non-governmental organization devoted to international law, Uganda now has oil reserves that have the potential to double the government's revenue within 6 to 10 years, worth an estimated US $2.4 billion per year. In theory, there will soon be poverty in Uganda, apart from the horror produced by capitalism within the absence of the public sector. It is the rule of thumb, in my opinion, and I have provided this opinion consistently, that every country or continent where there is poverty, especially in Africa, the priority policy of any capitalistic system being introduced in Africa and in Uganda should actually have it as number one priority to strengthen the public, not destroy, but strengthen the public sector and actually provide the public services by dividing the public sector. And this is a fundamental of getting the majority of the population out of poverty in the first place. Then these people, the majority of the population in Uganda and around the world, in Africa, will have the opportunity to get out of poverty. Not only that, have the opportunity to also maybe access wealth, to become rich. We will see about that. Then the non-governmental organizations amendment passed in 2006 to stifle the productivity of NGOs through erecting barriers to entry, activity, funding, and assembly within the sector. Now, when the NGO comes to Uganda, I don't know why they are being prevented. I think maybe for national security issue. The government of Uganda, probably, I'm not sure, but I think probably the government of Uganda struggle to control the NGOs because they are fairly independent. Nothing is supposed to happen economically in Uganda because of the extreme level of the dictatorship. Nothing is supposed to happen unless the government can control it. The government appears not to be able to control the NGOs, so they even prevent them to operate in Uganda in the first place for political reasons, for dictatorship reasons, because that is actually the nature of African government. Most African governments are militarily dictatorial. Burdensome and corrupt registration procedures that is required recommendation from government officials, annual re-registration, and reasonable regulation of operations that is requiring government notification prior to making contact with individuals in NGOs area of interest, the precondition that all foreign funds be passed through the Bank of Uganda, among other things, are severely limited output of the NGO sector. Because the government of Uganda only think of being in power for the ones in power. the focus of the government of Uganda is to control power and to control wealth is an ultra system rule, and that is similar to the rest of Africa, and let me also say the rest of the world, because that's why there's a lot of chaos. That's why there's a lot of living, there's a lot of poverty, because those in power are now entrenching. You use power for personal gain. In Africa, in Uganda, and across the world, even in the developed world now, that is what's happening. People go into it to just access power, and whatever they want power for, that's what they're going into politics to do. I mean, the kind of the kind of situation in the past where people believe government going into power, individuals going into politics to do something for the people. That is in the past. Everybody is it themselves, and that's why I hate in this program, and I'll repeat it overly, whether you're rich or poor, whether you are in government or you are out of government, you need to learn the cultural economy, which respect people. It is just that, and how to do that is another issue. How we are going to achieve that is another issue. Where there's a will, there's a way. If we are willing to change, if we want to change the way we think, we can achieve that. There's no way we cannot achieve something we set out to achieve. If we set out to achieve violence, we always achieve it. We want peace, we achieve peace. Furthermore, the sector's freedom of speech has been continually infringed upon through the use of intimidation. The recent public order management bill severely limiting freedom of assembly will only hide the government's stockpile of ammunition. This is the risk produced by the Western powers who support dictators in Africa, and it's not just in Uganda. This is a problem across Africa, and it is going to destroy Africa totally, including the dictators. If you think you're a dictator in Africa and you're going to survive by destroying the rest of Africa by violence, by becoming warmonger, promoting warmongering, killing so many people, which is what has happened in Uganda. People actually only focusing on power and wealth and status, pride, and all that. This is despising humanity, destroying humanity, and people have died so much under the current regime of Museveni. Even when he went into the bush in the 1980s to fight the then government, a lot of people died because of the wars they fought in Luero, and I believe he should be in a position to take all or some of the responsibilities for the death of the people of Uganda. He went into the bush because they wanted power. He got power. Now people continue to die. This is actually a feature of any government in Africa, even any government ruled around Uganda. A lot of people have died under every government in Uganda, including the government of Museveni. The only difference is that whoever is in government to being responsible do not take responsibility for the problem. They deny, they just blame somebody else. They are so corrupt that they need to learn the cultural economy, and need to act peacefully. This is what I'll say over and over. We're going to look at the human rights in Uganda. There are many areas which continue to attract concern when it comes to human rights in Uganda. Conflict in northern part of the country continues to generate reports of abuses by forces that are able the rebel resistance army (LRA) led by Joseph Kony and the Uganda government. A UN official accused the LRA in February 2009 of appalling brutality in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The number of internally displaced persons is estimated at 1.4 million. Torture continues to be widespread practice among security organizations. Attacks on political freedom in the country, including the arrest and beating of opposition members of parliament, have led to international criticism, culminating in May 2005 in a decision by the British government to withhold part of its aid to the country. This was actually a few years ago now. It's business as usual, because you see, the problem with Britain and Europe and the rest of the other developed world is that they use Africa and Uganda included to promote capitalism, and that's all they want. And it doesn't matter how bad a government is, they try to protect it because it's violent, it's African government. So you see, there's nowhere to run. Yeah, if you're in Africa, you suffer in silence. If you're in Europe, you suffer also if you are not in power. But you see, those out of power can now suffer. But in future, everybody suffers because, you know, if you actually brutalize one section of society, you think you're going to escape, and you delude yourself that you are good. In the West, the Western powers think they are good, think they are democratic. Well, there is no democracy, in my opinion, because if there was democracy, there would not be the cost of living crisis. The cost of living crisis was created by poverty. There wouldn't be poverty in developed world. There wouldn't be poverty in the world. The fact that there is poverty is that, you know, there is no democracy. It's as simple as that. With so much wealth, why should there be poverty? And there being a lot of wealth, that means the problem is actually, other than poverty, lack of wealth, is a form of violence. So the arrest of the main opposition leader, Kizza Besigye, and the siege of the High Court during the hearing of Besigye's case by heavily armed security forces before the February 2006 election led to condemnation. Kizza Besigye is actually the author of his calamity because he and Museveni fled into the bush to fight a criminal war against a democratically elected government, and they shouldn't have done that because, you know, now they are in power, they are even worse than the previous government. You know, they have destroyed the economy, they have conducted a corrupt mode of government at such a level because they are just there to steal wealth and money, and they are not using the government of Uganda to protect their wealth. That is the only thing Museveni and these stooges are doing. They have no idea what they are going to do. They are doing nothing. Their focus is to remain in power in order to protect their wealth and to protect themselves, because they created a lot of problems in Uganda. What goes around comes around. We will see where this will end. Child domestic servants in Uganda face sexual abuse, trafficking of children occurs, slavery and forced labor are prohibited by the Ugandan constitution. The U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants reported several violations of refugee rights in 2007, including forcible deportation by the Ugandan government and violence directed against refugees. This is the feature of modern capitalism. We see it in Britain, the abuse of refugees in America, in Europe, around the world, because capitalism is a very evil system. Not because capitalism is evil, but because the people running it are extremely evil and violent. And violence, you know, covers their mouth and their hands and their life. And this is fundamentally because they are culturally uneducated. They don't value humanity, and therefore they abuse humanity. And they have to change by learning how to respect people, to value humanity, and treat people respectfully with dignity. Reinstate the public sector to manage public services, to get people out of poverty, to remove incidents like the cost of living crisis. For instance, according to a 2012 U.S. State Department report, the African Center for Treatment and Rehabilitation and for Torture Victims registered 170 allegations of torture against police, 214 against the UPDF, 1 against the military police, 27 against the Special Investigation Unit, 361 against unspecified security personnel, and 24 against prison officials between January and September 2012. It was years ago, and it continues to this day. It's not going to stop unless we have respect. In September 2009, Museveni refused Kabaka Mwenda Mutebi, the Buganda King, permission to visit some areas of Buganda Kingdom, particularly the Kayunga district. Riots occurred and over 40 million were killed, while others still remain in prison. Furthermore, 9 more people were killed during the April 2011 walk to work demonstration, according to Human Rights Watch 2013. While report for Uganda, the government has failed to investigate the killings associated with both of these events. If you have watched this far, congratulate yourself. And thank you so far for your support. If you're still around. And just subscribe to this channel, share with family and friends, click like, click notification bell in the comment below. Let us look at the plight of LGBT rights in Uganda. From 2009 protest in New York City against Uganda's first anti-homosexuality bill. In 2007, newspaper, the Great Paper, published a list of alleged gay men, many of whom suffered harassment as a result. On the 9th of October 2010, the Ugandan newspaper Rolling Stone published a front-page article titled 100 Pictures of Uganda's Top Homos Leak that listed the names, addresses, and photographs of hundreds of homosexuals alongside a yellow banner that would read "Hang them." The paper also alleged homosexual recruitment of Ugandan children. The publication attracted international attention and criticism from human rights organizations such as Amnesty International, No Peace Without Justice, International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans, and Intersex Association. According to gay rights activists, many Ugandans have been attacked since the publication. On the 27th January 2011, gay rights activist David Kato was murdered. In 2009, the Ugandan parliament considered an anti-homosexuality bill which would uproot the criminalization of homosexuality by introducing the death penalty for the people who have previous conviction or are HIV positive and engaged in same-sex sexual acts. The bill included provisions for Ugandans who engage in same-sex sexual relations outside of Uganda, asserting that they may be extradited back to Uganda for punishment, and included penalties for individuals, companies, media organizations, non-governmental organizations that support legal protection for homosexuality or sodomy. On the 14th of October 2007, MP David Bahati submitted a private member's bill and was believed to have had widespread support in the Uganda parliament. The activist group Anonymous hacked into Ugandan government website in protest the bill. In response to the global condemnation, the debate on the bill was delayed, but it was eventually passed on the 20th of December 2013, and President Museveni signed it on the 24th February 2014. The law was widely condemned by the international community. Denmark, the Netherlands, and Sweden, they said would withhold aid. On 28th February 2014, the World Bank said it would postpone a US $90 million loan, while the United States said it was reviewing ties. On the 1st August 2014, the Constitutional Court of Uganda ruled the bill invalid as it was not passed with the required quorum. While a 13th August 2014 news report said that the Ugandan Attorney General had dropped all plans to appeal for a directive from President Museveni, who was concerned about the foreign relation to the bill, and who also said that any newly introduced bill should not criminalize same-sex relationship between consenting adults. As of 2019, progress on the African continent was slow but progressing, with South Africa being the only country where same-sex marriages are recognized. Talk about Anti-Homosexuality Bill Act 2023. On the 21st March 2023, the Ugandan Parliament passed a bill that would make identifying as homosexuality punishable by life imprisonment, and the death penalty for anyone found guilty of aggravated homosexuality. countries opposing the bill: European Union countries without statements, countries supporting the bill, no statement. Uganda. On March 9, 2023, Asuman Bazaliwa, member of parliament since 2018, from the position representing Bukiri municipality on Justice Forum party ticket table the proposed law which seeks out to castigate gay sex and the promotion or recognition of such relations. And he made remarks that in this country, in this world, we talk about human rights, but it is also true that there are human wrongs. I want to submit that homosexuality is a human wrong that offends the laws of Uganda and threatens to the sanctity of the family, the safety of our children, and the continuation of humanity throughout reproduction. The Speaker of Parliament, Anita Mong, referred the bill to a House committee for scrutiny, the first step in an accelerated process to pass the proposal into law. And the Parliament Speaker earlier noted that we want the appreciation of our promoters of homosexuality for the social economic development as they have grown the country in reference to Western countries and donors. But we do not appreciate the fact that they are killing morals. We do not need their money, we need our culture. During a prayer service held in Parliament and attended by several religious leaders, the Speaker vowed to pass the bill into law at whatever cost to shield Uganda's culture and its sovereignty. On March 21, 2023, this year, Parliament rapidly passed the anti-homosexuality bill with overwhelming support. The United States strongly condemned the bill. During a White House press briefing on March 2, 2023, Karine Jean-Pierre stated, human rights are universal. No one should be trapped in prison or killed simply because of who they are or whom they love. In the following days, further criticism came from the United Kingdom, Canada, Germany, and the European Union. But these are the same power who put Museveni and his dictatorship into power. And now they are defending homosexuality and expressing their disagreement with Museveni. They are acknowledging now Uganda as being a country who break human rights. And this is the story of Africa. This is the story of the European and the West and the people of the world allowing evil to happen in Africa, allowing evil to happen in Uganda, evil of dictatorship, of destroying human life, of disrespecting people. And what now they see when these actually has gone to harm homosexuals in the world, then our American government are now talking. I think this is an opportunity to see that if something is bad for homosexuals, it's bad for straight people, it's bad for humanity, then if we are to protect the human rights of homosexuals, let us also protect the human rights of straight. It is as though the European Union and the and the Western world allow dictators like Museveni, allow dictators in Africa and around the world to persecute straight people, and only when homosexuals are actually attacked, then they see that to be wrong. I think that is really a perversion of the idea of human rights. I believe homosexual should be given, should be protected, and also straight people should be protected, and straight and gay should both be protected by human rights. And these should be actually the American and the European Union. If people remain in power, I mean, if African dictators remain in power to destroy the people of Africa and the people of Africa, for example, to let them stay in power, that is a breach of human rights. And the capitalists of the Western world and now the East have joined in should have actually seen to protect poor people in Africa from the cost of living crisis, which is actually a breach of human rights. In the same way as they are now complaining about breach of sexuality, which is the right thing to do. Because human rights need to be protected. The poor people should be protected from abuse by the state, by capitalism, and America should stand behind African countries and behind Uganda to reintroduce the public sector and to provide public service, including introducing the welfare system in Africa, to make sure Africans are actually given their due right within the human rights laws. And this is something the Americans and the Western power should consider while dealing with Africa. Africa are treated worse than animals. Even homosexuals who are the majority of the population of the world are treated with more respect by the West than the African people, who are actually run into billions. They are the most popular people in the world in Africa, and they are abused by the West and their fellow dictators in Africa who are in government, and the Africans are dying of poverty, and nobody cares about that. What they care about is the right of homosexuals, who are actually the minority. I'm not saying minorities should not be protected. Homosexuals should be protected in Africa or elsewhere. But it is really incredible that the same powers in the West do not protect billions of poor people in Africa who are dying of poverty, who are suffering the cost of living crisis at all. And this is wickedness. The kind of wickedness which can only be produced by failure of the cultural education. Let's look up at demonstration in Uganda, administrative divisions of Uganda. As of 2022, Uganda is divided into 4 regions of Uganda. 136 districts. The rural areas of districts are subdivided into counties, parishes, and villages. Municipal town and town councils are designated in urban areas of districts. Political subdivision in Uganda are officially served and united by the Ugandan land government, Ugandan local government association, ULGA, a voluntary and non-profit body which also serves as a forum for support and guidance for Ugandan sub-national governments. Parallel with the state administration, 5 traditional Bantu kingdoms have remained, enjoying some degrees of mainly cultural autonomy. Look at the kingdoms, which are actually Toro, Busoga, Bogoro, Uganda. Furthermore, some groups attempt to restore Ankole as one of the officially recognized traditional kingdoms, to no avail yet. So we'll see about that. Several other kingdoms and chiefdoms are officially recognized by the government, including the Union of Aluru chiefdoms, the Iteso Paramount Chieftaincy, the Paramount Chieftaincy of Lango, and the Padola state. What I would say to the government of Uganda and Africa is to stop calling kings and queens and the royal family of Africa as chiefs. Chief is not a royal title, especially in England, where English originates. Chief is not a royal title. So African royalty should never be insulted by the West, and also by African government who are actually a proxy ruling on behalf of their colonial masters. So African leaders who are actually royalties should be addressed appropriately as kings and queens wherever they are, and whether they are in Ankole, whether they are in the other areas. Alu doesn't have chiefdoms. A chiefdom is an irrelevance. Chiefdoms are actually administrators, like you have the prime ministers in Britain serving the king. Is a chief. Every chief in England is actually a servant of the royalty, and that's a administrative role. It's not a royal role at all. So that should be stopped. The Europeans and their African past dictators who ruled Africa in ignorance to stop abusing the royalties of Africa, and especially the royalty of Uganda. In Alu, the royalty of Alu are actually kings and queens and princes and princesses. So that is it. The Iteso chieftaincy is rubbish. This is actually kingdom. The kingdom in Iteso, the paramount chieftaincy of Lao, that is nonsense. It's the kingdom of Lao, the kingship of Lao, and the Padola state, whatever you call them, they are kings. Wherever any royal exists, they are kings and queens. No more, no less. The ones we treat Baganda, the Shoga as king, the Toro as king, the Acholi should have their king, Alu should have their king, the Ites should have their king, and that is the bottom line. The people of the world should really stop abusing Africans. Economy and infrastructure, main article economy of Uganda, economy and infrastructure, the economy of Uganda, energy in Uganda, culture of Uganda. 2012 graphical depiction of Uganda's product exports in 28 color coded categories. The Bank of Uganda is the central bank of Uganda and it handles monetary policy with the printing of Ugandan shilling. In 2015, Uganda's economy generated export income from the following merchandise: coffee, US dollar of 402.63 million, oil re-exports, US dollar 131.25. I don't know million. I don't know if you re-export oil. That is really interesting. You import everything. I mean, that is probably a really cool kind of business. I mean, if you make profit doing that, then that is cool. Base metals product, US dollar 128 million, fish 117.6 million, maize 90.97 million, cement 8.13 million, tobacco 73.13 million, tea 69.94 million, sugar 66.43 million, hide and skin 62.71 million, cocoa beans 55.67 million, beans 53.88 million, simsim 52.20 million, flowers 51.44 million, and other products 766.7 million. Change in per capita GDP of Uganda 1950-2018 figures are inflation adjusted to 2011 international dollars. The country has been experiencing consistent economic growth. In fiscal year 2015-16, Uganda recorded gross domestic product growth of 4.6% in real terms and 11.6% in nominal terms. This compares to 5.0% real growth in fiscal year 2014 and 2015. The country has largely updated reserves of both crude oil and natural gas, while agriculture accounted for 56% of the economy in 1986. The coffee is its main export. It has now been surpassed by the services sector, which accounted for 52% of GDP in 2007. In the 1950s, the British colonial regime encouraged some 500,000 subsistence farmers to join cooperatives. Since 1986, the government, with the support of foreign countries and international agencies, has acted to rehabilitate an economy devastated during the regime of Idi Amin and the subsequent civil war. In 2012, the World Bank still listed Uganda on a heavily indebted poor countries list. Economic growth has not always led to poverty reduction. That's the same story in other any capitalistic country. The more growth, the more proportionately the poor are getting very poor, the rich are getting very rich, because capitalism is designed to do just that, to enslave the population, the majority, the slaves, the ruling class are actually the ones who benefit from capitalism. For the few, not for the many. The many suffered the loss of wealth, and the few suffer benefit from the benefit of the work. So in other words, the more an economy grows under capitalism, with capitalism, that it actually concentrate wealth in the hands of the few and take away wealth from the hands of the many and give it to the hands of the many. And that's why I say to address that, the public sector should be strengthened in Africa, in Uganda, and anywhere else in Europe, as well, to address the extreme injustice at the level of violence this is produced by failure of culture, which we should actually revisit to allow our people, the leaders, to learn culture, to respect the ordinary people, who actually remove the slave master mentality which is produced by capitalism, to moderate capitalism by promoting public sector and public service. Despite an average annual growth of 2.1% between 2003 and 2003, poverty level increased by 3.8% during that time. This has highlighted the importance of avoiding jobless growth and is part of rising awareness in development crisis of the need of equitable growth, not just in Uganda but across the world. You see, capitalism, which is now being promoted in Africa by the IMF and the World Bank through African governments, also in Uganda, capitalism is designed to concentrate wealth in the hands of the few, from the hands of the many, to take money from the few, from the many, and give it to the few. One of the features of doing that is actually to create jobs. Private companies, small and medium multi-billion businesses do not create jobs. They hate jobs because jobs actually cost money. If a big corporation or a small and medium business say there is a lack of efficiency in the business, in which case sometimes that business is closed. If there is inefficiency, it means the cost of employment is unsustainable. It also means because of the cost of things like employment, these big businesses are not making profit. That is the meaning of efficiency. Efficiency means the private company is making money, a lot of profit. And to make a lot of profit, you have to cut jobs. So for the government to say capitalism create jobs is actually dishonesty or ignorance. Because that's why we need public sector to actually protect jobs, maybe support small and medium businesses with tax policy, or even big businesses. But big businesses should be re-educated culturally because they are so powerful. They can afford to give a bit of their money by keeping people in work. And so to not really to change the way capitalism works, but just to moderate it so that people get out of poverty, so that people can survive, the majority who are excluded by the system can survive. That is what I keep saying. That is why there is a cost of living crisis, because poor employment environment created by capitalism. Capitalism is the worst form of economic system to create jobs. The only way to create jobs is actually government intervene to support small and medium businesses in any country, including Uganda, to support employment. There will never be full employment, especially now with technology. Government should think how to provide welfare, because more and more people are going to lose their jobs. Because capitalists who are actually owners of businesses only focus on making money. They're not there to create jobs. When technology comes to take away jobs, there will be no jobs, literally. So for that to be corrected, the government should work with rich people who own big businesses, who the government has sold of the country to. They own the country anyway. Big multimillionaires and multimillionaires, private individuals are now owning the world. In every country they are owners, including in Uganda. President Museveni, why is he rich? Because he's owning almost the country, is his private asset. and that is capitalism. When it is actually run by people who are culturally uneducated, which are all of us are actually culturally uneducated, we need to really, as a people, as humans, we need to learn cultural education so that we begin to respect ourselves and respect others. Whether you are rich or poor, you are the same. The difference with rich people is that they are so powerful that they can destroy the world much faster. Because if you give a gun to a child, he is going to cause more havoc than when he doesn't have a gun. So, some of these multimillionaires and multimillionaires are actually children culturally who do not respect people at all, and they treat people like worse than animals. Basically, if people die, they don't care. When people suffer, they don't care. And that's why I say we need to really work together to bring peace. There cannot be peace if section of community, the section of the society are actually faced with a distinction. That is what is happening. If you listen to this, if you don't, that's objective. I mean, if you bury your head in the sand, it doesn't mean the problem is going to go away. You see, I mean, if you want to have a party, you have a party knowing that, maybe that is the last day you're going to go to party, because there comes a time when you won't even have money to go to any party. All the parties will close down because of the cost of living, which is not going to go anywhere. It's going to get worse and worse, because capitalism is creating the cost of living crisis. And capitalism, which is extreme, which is violent, which is destructive, has to be moderated by the public sector and the public service. Let's look at coal fields in southwestern Uganda, with the Ugandan securities exchanges established in 1996. Several equities have been listed. The government has used the stock market as an avenue for privatization. So privatization is well alive in Uganda. So look at the status, our treasury. So government treasury issues are listed on the securities exchange. The Capital Markets Authority has licensed agent brokers, asset managers, and investment advisors, including African Alliance Investment Bank, Baroda Capital Markets Uganda Limited, Crane Financial Services Uganda Limited, Crescent Stocks and Securities Limited, Bayer and Blair Investment Bank, Equity Stock Brokers Uganda Limited, Renation Capital Investment Bank, the UAP Financial Services Limited. So Uganda is becoming a finance-driven economy. Yes, the ways of increasing formal domestic saving pension sector reform is the center of our attention in 2007. Uganda traditionally depends on Kenya for access to the Indian Ocean port of Mombasa. Efforts have intensified to establish a second access route to the sea via the lakeside port of Bokassa in Uganda and Musoma in Tanzania, connected by railway to Arusha in the Tanzanian interior and the port of Tanga on the Indian Ocean. Uganda is a member of the East African Community and a potential member of the planned East African Federation. I've discussed that when I was talking about East Africa. If you watch that video, I discussed the African Union, which I named, and also which it is. Uganda has a large diaspora residing mainly in the United States and the United Kingdom. There we are. These diasporas contributed enormously to Uganda's economic growth through remittances and other investments, especially property. God bless them. According to the World Bank, Uganda received in 2016 an estimated $1.099 billion in remittances from abroad, second only to Kenya, $1.574 billion in the East African Community, and the seventh in East Africa. That is why in Europe and America, the authorities are now preventing Africans, especially Africans, from immigrating there to work. In part because the economy has actually changed in the developed world, in the West and also in the East. Because of technology, they no longer need people from Africa to work the cheap labor a kind of slave laboring, the kind of job. These jobs have now closed down. And that's why the immigration is now coming up to prevent Africans from coming to Europe and to America, because they are of no use now. These countries no longer need Africans. They no longer need immigrant workers, because the economy has evolved. There aren't any work even for citizens, because the economy has evolved. Technology is taking over work, and wealth has increased. The economy has been shut down, beginning from the public sector, beginning by the private sector, small and medium, and also now the big businesses will be closing down, and the entire economy of the world, of the globe, is going to close down. Technology will run the economy of the world, and the technology running economy world is creating wealth for those who own technology. And the best way to be rich in the future to own technology, it doesn't matter what kind of technology it is, and things like Google, Google and stuff like that. You need to really have control of the technological fingerprinting. Wherever you are, if you are in Africa, you really have to pay attention to technology, because it's actually becoming the source of the wealth. The one who will rule the world is the one who will own technology. People like Jeff Bezos, people like Elon Musk, people like Bill Gates, who are investing in technology now, are the new ruler of the world, because they are the new controllers of the market. The government is going to shut down, the politics is going to shut down. They are only going to have resistance, security, and more of security from whatever people who are protesting, because they have no jobs, they have no means of survival. In the next 100 to 500 years, this is going to start happening. It's beginning to happen now. People are now struggling now to find work. There's a cost of living. That's why there's a cost of living in Europe, where the cost of living is a sign of change in the economy. In that, there are no works. There are going to be no jobs anyway. The government cannot tell the truth to people, because they fear trouble. But they are wrong, because they should have actually told people the truth and began to put more money into the economy. The welfare benefits should go up in the developed world. They should be introduced in Africa, because if there is technology now creating wealth for the few, then the few who are private businesses should now be educated to invest in the welfare state, welfare benefit. And that's the only way people will access the wealth of the world, because the economy and the governments are closing down. And we're going to have nations with wealth without government, without the law. And the law, if it is there, the government is going to be private. It's not going to be part of the state. As you know, it will not be no election. Election can be done as a gimmick. If you don't vote, you're not going to eat. This PhD dictated by private. Imagine Elon Musk being the ruler of the world, because he controls all the wealth of the world through technology. That's the future. So and it's beginning to happen now. That's why the cost of living. That's why I'm talking. So let us try to understand what is happening. Thank you for watching this far. Subscribe to this channel if you are watching this far. You are a champion, and we are going to make it. We are small, but we are on the right track. So let's look at Uganda finally. The Ugandan Bureau of Statistics announced inflation was 4.6% in November 2016. On the 29th of June 2018, Uganda Statistics Agency said the country registered a drop in inflation to 3.4% in the financial year ending 2017-2018, compared to the 5.6% recorded in the financial year 2016-2017. We're going to stop this video here, and we are going to continue later on. Maybe tomorrow. We're still on Uganda. We're still on Uganda. We're going to continue to talk about Uganda, and linking Uganda with the cost of living crisis. And thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to this channel, and continue paying attention to where you live, in whatever country you live, your environment. If something is happening, you have to pay attention. You have to be serious. You have to be a responsible citizen. And even if you are a young person, even if you are only 6, even if you are only 10, if you are only 15, you can play, you can have fun, but you need to understand what's going on. If your parents or your colleagues or your friends talk about issues of the cost of living crisis, try to find out what the cost of living is and what is causing it. You're not too young to be of use. You can advise your parents if you know something. You can support your parents in some way to reduce poverty. Your family need to get out of poverty. Wherever you are, you need to have a plan. As a family, you need to have a plan, and you need to get out. Do anything you can to get out of poverty. Do something about housing, about income, about debt. You have to reduce. If you're a child, you stop asking your parents too much to buy things you may not need it. I know we all want to shop. I want to shop. I want to buy it. I want to buy the entire shop and bring it home. But the world has changed. It's changing, especially in the developed world. Also in Africa, especially in Africa, there's a lot of poverty, and we need to talk to the government to really get people out of poverty, because there's a lot of wealth, and there's no point keeping people in poverty when there's a lot of wealth. Thank you for watching again, and click the notification bell for the next video, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Share with family and friends, and click like. Thank you. See you in the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.